Sup y'all, it's me, it's your boy Asmongold, and today I figured I'd give you guys my feedback on some of the new PvP changes that are being planned for Legion. Now I'm getting all of this information off of a Battle.net post that was made on the 16th, and I would have done a video on it whenever it was posted, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, it's taken me a little bit longer. Anyway, if you guys do want to just check out the post yourself, you don't want to go through the whole video, there's going to be a link in the description so you guys can do just that. Before I really get into the specifics though, I do want to kind of explain what I think is Blizzard's overarching philosophy with a lot of these changes. I think that Blizzard, it's no real secret, and all of the statistics and analytics that I've seen have shown PvP participation to be at an all-time low, and so Blizzard has been trying to, get more players into PvP and trying to tap into that MOBA, that FPS market that's very, very profitable. If you go and you watch Twitch right now, you're going to see, League of Legends and other MOBAs and FPS games at the top, and maybe a couple of other games that are just really popular at the time, but the staying power really with those games that are at the top that have a huge viewership and a huge population of people playing them are usually MOBAs and FPSs. So Blizzard has been making a lot of efforts, I see, to kind of make WoW PvP more like a MOBA, more like a League of Legends and stuff like that. Now, I kind of think that this could be good, it could be bad, but really what it comes down to is that if I wanted to play League of Legends, I'd play League of Legends. If I wanted to play CSGO, I'd play CSGO. The reason people play WoW, I think, is because it does kind of give people more of a gear progression, and people can go into PvP and really kick ass with new gear, or maybe not as much, and then they can work their way up. That's always kind of how I felt about it, and one of the things that I've liked about the game, and it was more rewarding whenever we were able to do that. In Legion, they're trying to lessen that gap between the lower level geared players and the higher level geared players. Now, one of the big things that they're changing here is they're making you're not going to get honor points or conquest points anymore. You have an honor level, okay? And so imagine League of Legends. You ever played like Heroes of the Storm or something, where you play the game, and throughout the game you rank up and you get up to level 30. This is basically the way the honor system is working. And every 10 levels or 20 levels or 15 or whatever, you get an extra talent point, and it functions exactly the same way as your leveling talents function right now. Like level 15 or level 10 or whatever, you get first talent. Level 20, you get your next, or 30, you get next one, 45, then 60, 75, 90, and then I think 100. And so it's going to be functioning basically that same way. Now, one thing that I do like about this is it does allow them to kind of make changes in PvP that don't necessarily affect PvE, because these talents and abilities are kind of secondary abilities that you don't necessarily, it's not like you're getting with these PvP talents, you're not necessarily getting new abilities, you're kind of getting new functionality for existing abilities. Now, one thing that I really do like about this is obviously it allows them to tweak PvP and balance PvP more easily, which is another thing that I think that they're obviously trying to do here, is kind of separate PvP and PvE, so they're able to balance PvP without affecting PvE, which is of course something that people have wanted for a very long time. The one thing that I don't like about the honor system, the new honor system that they're planning, is for one, I don't think it's going to be really quite as rewarding as gearing up, just because it's not visible. And people might not really necessarily understand this in the same way that they understand getting a new helmet or a new sword. Also, one thing I don't like about it is because it's I'll look at the warrior, the honor talents for warriors, and I'll see abilities there that I used to have that were baseline for my character, and now they've been transferred over to being PvP only abilities. And while I understand why that's true, I think mass spell reflection is one of them for warriors, and I understand on Heroic Lee Shin, you were able to use mass spell reflection to avoid having to do diffuse lightning, and so there are all these little things that mass spell reflection was very useful for in PvE that Blizzard didn't necessarily account for. And so obviously they don't necessarily have to worry about people bringing in 2 warriors or something for Lee Shin, and unintended consequences of talents and all that stuff in raids. Now, obviously people can say, well, you should have coded the game better or something else like that, but I think it's a little bit more complicated. Obviously, I think that this is probably going to be a good change. Now, once you reach level 50, now this is one thing that I feel very positively about, is once you reach level 50 on your PvP honor level. Now, there's no real information about how long this is going to take. I assume it will probably take you about a week or two, and once you reach level 50, you're able to prestige up. It's basically the same as I think Call of Duty does this, and a lot of other games basically give you a prestige level. Once you get up to level 50, you can click the prestige button, and then you go back down to 0, but you can get a new mount, a new pet, a new title. You get a little think it's like a badge next to your portrait, and so all kinds of like little cool things like that for people. Personally, again, like these are very cosmetic changes, and I think for a lot of people, one concern that I do have, this isn't necessarily a problem with the Prestige, but what I'm seeing with a lot of this stuff is it's all really cosmetic. It doesn't necessarily affect your character, and I think that for a lot of people, unless they're actually getting something that makes them do more damage, that makes them live longer or something like that, a new trinket or something like that, the rewards aren't necessarily as compelling. And so I think that the Prestige is a very good idea, especially like what they're trying to sell it as is something for people who don't necessarily let's be real, people who basically suck at PvP, or they're not really serious about getting rating, and there's no real progression for them, right? So they're never really gonna try and get to like 2K or 2.2 or Gladiator or anything like that. But you can, Blizzard can kind of keep them on the hamster wheel by giving them these prestige rankings and keep them PvPing and prestiging up. And so I think this could potentially be a very good idea, depending on how the tiered systems work and how long it takes. The only thing that I don't like about the prestige system really is that whenever you go back down to 0, you lose all of your PvP talents and you have to reacquire all of them. It seems kind of punishing to punish people for PvPing a lot and taking advantage of something within the PvP. Now, another really big thing that they're doing is they're changing completely the way that you get gear in PvP. Now, I think this is probably the biggest, the second, I don't know. It's a big point of contention with me, because I think that actually being able to get gear and have gear influence your character and make your character more powerful in PvP has always been a very rewarding part of the game. Whenever I would get like a new sword or something like that from a raid, I didn't take it into like LFR or like the equivalent of that, or like Max 10 or something like that. I took it into a battleground and I killed people in like 3 hits. It was always really fun. But with this new system, gear isn't going to play as much of an effect. Now, right now, they use the I guess like the comparison where you have 25 item levels over somebody else, you're 25% more powerful. But in Legion, if you have 25 item levels over somebody, you're only 2.5 times as powerful. And so that's a huge drop. That's only 10% of the difference that it made. Now, also, they're trying to make it to where players, like now, whenever you queue into PvP, you have a set stat template. And so again, this is very similar to the way they have like MOBAs, where they already if you play Heroes of the Storm, like you have like Zeratul or like Nova or like a Nubarak, they automatically know like exactly how much health the Nubarak is going to start off with and how much damage he's going to do. Like Zeratul, like the cooldown on all of his abilities, how much damage everything is going to do. And so if they want to nerf something specifically, it becomes much more easy for them. And in PvP, especially with WoW, it also is very, this is going to allow them, in my opinion, to really balance PvP without affecting PvE as much. Because, like, let's say, like, Frost Mages, I think in 5.2 had a very, very strong mastery. It just straight up increased Frost damage. And so it was very, very strong. And so they ended up, I think, nerfing Frost Mastery, and that hurt PvE mages. But now they can just lower the mastery, lower the mastery in PvP, and it won't necessarily affect PvP at all, or PvE at all. And it's just like all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, is a very good idea. I'm just very worried about it really ending up not necessarily being as compelling and rewarding for players. Now, you're able to still get PvP gear, and I think this is probably the biggest problem that I have, is that the PvP gear that you get is going to be basically acquired solely through the Strongbox system. That means that you're not going to be able to buy PvP gear. So my understanding, like, I don't know if you open up a Strongbox and it gives you like a token and you turn that token in for PvP gear. I highly doubt that's going to be what it's going to be, but maybe it is. Either way, the reason I don't really like this is, again, it takes agency and control away from the players, and it basically makes the gearing process an RNG slot machine. I don't really have fun playing slot machines. I don't really know about you guys, but it's never really been fun. And I think that, recently in WoW, there's just been so many more RNG elements added into the game. It's, in my opinion, kind of sapped the fun away and eroded the sense of reward that you get from getting something whenever there's no real, you have no real control of getting it. So, like, if you get an amazing item, it was luck. And if you get a shitty item, it was luck, right? And so the reward necessarily isn't there, and the punishment isn't there either, but I don't really think it gives players the same sense of I don't really know what the word for this is, like investment, and they don't really feel good about it. I think that's really what it comes down to, is I don't think that people really feel good about getting items from strong boxes. And you can look at like what happened in the patch 6.2 PTR, where Ashran, there were a lot of offset PvP pieces that could only be acquired through Ashran and also through random battlegrounds, getting the boxes from those two. And everybody, well, not everybody, but easily over 90% of the people who were on the PvP forums and were talking about this were very, very much against this, and it took an overwhelming amount of people who were very upset about it to make Blizzard revert the decision, or at least make those pieces available to buy for Honor. Now, I really do like the strongbox system in a lot of ways, but I don't like it as being the only way of gearing up. I think that what we have right now is probably the best system, where you can get some strongbox items, but everything you don't get through a strongbox, you're able to buy with PvP Honor. Now, I think that that would be, in my opinion, a good compromise and what I would really like to see. But I think that Blizzard is trying to make it to where players just have like this endless grind in PvP, and I don't really think that people are going to have fun with that. Also, you're able to get PvP gear, but the PvP gear is going to be identical to the PvE gear, and so it's not going to be like PvP power. It's not going to scale up in PvP. It's not going to do anything weird like that. It's going to be basically just like in vanilla, whenever you get like the Field Marshal gear, and it was the exact same as basically the AQ40 gear or a BWL gear, but it just had different stats. And I really think that this could also be bad as well, because there are really two ways that this can turn out. Either the best gear in the game that you can get for PvP is going to be Mythic Raid gear, because obviously I think that it would be kind of ridiculous, really, for Mythic Raid gear to be the same as RNG Strongbox PvP gear. I really would be surprised if they did something like that, but I also would not be. I wouldn't rule it out either. And so that's one scenario here, is that either the PvP gear, the best gear in the game for PvP, you have to get through raiding, because again, it's not that the gear doesn't matter. The gear still matters. It's just it doesn't matter as much. And I think that if they're going to make gear matter, make gear matter, and if they're going to make gear not matter, make it not matter at all. I don't really like this gray area where, well, gear doesn't matter in PvP, but wait, no, then gear does give you an increase in damage, but not as big of an increase. But okay, so then still gear does matter in PvP, because if you have like 50 or 75 item levels over somebody, that's still 5 or 7.5% more damage, and at a very high competitive level, it does kind of matter. And even at a very high level, and again, I don't think it's really going to make people feel good to know that they can never really get the best gear for PvP through PvP. And you could make the argument that because Mythic raiding is a lot harder than PvP, that you should be able to get better gear for PvP in raiding. But really, there are people who think that that PvP is harder than raiding, and it would be kind of shitty to have to actually do PvP in order to get raid gear, which comes to the second thing that could happen, where Mythic raid gear is the equivalent of the Mythic or like highest level PvP gear, where at that point, like, then you're kind of getting raiders into PvP that they don't necessarily want to do, and then they're getting these RNG strong boxes. And I think that really, like coordinating a raid and having to log on at a certain time for a schedule, because like that's pretty much what all Mythic guilds have. If you get into like a Mythic guild that's more than like probably like 5 bosses into Mythic, Hellfire Citadel, you're probably going to have to log on at a certain time and log off at a certain time on certain days of the week, just to get everybody together to make sure you have the group that you need to progress. And so if you compare that, like having to do all this stuff and all this logistical work and like all the interpersonal stuff that goes along with the guild as well, and compare that just to going and doing PvP, even at like 2 or 2.2k, like PvP is going to be a lot more accessible, and it's going to make raiding not necessarily worthwhile. And so really, I think that they have to make a decision and either go all in or not at all. It seems like they're trying to do like this kind of gray area thing, and I don't really think that it's going to work out very well. And that's really kind of what concerns me, is that a lot of these things seem like they're kind of trying to make everybody happy. And what I'd really like to see with like in terms of the gear, I think that in random battlegrounds and stuff like that, I don't really think gear, they should scale down gear. They shouldn't scale it up. It should just be you can go in there and do whatever you want. But in rated battlegrounds and rated arena and everything like that, they should make everybody basically basically have the same exact toolkit, and if they actually want to make it competitive and everything like that, put everybody on the exact same level. Don't kind of give them this, oh well, he has a 5% increase, and he's using something else that you don't have, and all this stuff. I think it should either be all or nothing, and this gray area thing I think is going to leave everybody kind of disappointed. Now, obviously, I think that a lot of this stuff is, I'm not really sure how to really put it. A lot of it's very exciting for PvPers, and I've been very excited by it, but some of these things have also been very disappointing. Now, there are some other really good ideas that they're doing. One of the things that they're also going to be doing in Legion is they're going to make PvP seasons, so like the Prideful season or Warmongering season or whatever. They're going to be making the PvP seasons shorter, and I think that's a good thing, just to kind of create like more of a sense of urgency with playing in the PvP seasons, get those rewards out quicker. I think Finruki did a video, it was like a state of PvP, and I remember I watched the thing, I thought it was really, really good, because I mean, like, I'm a PvPer sometimes, but I mainly raid. I do Battlegrounds fairly regularly, and I usually try and get like 2k each season at least, just to get the transmog gear, but I don't necessarily take PvP as seriously as somebody who's like a rank 1 gladiator like he is, and so kind of like watching his video and seeing somebody's perspective who's very much into the PvP community, one of the things that he said is, well, it's very enlightening to see that, and one of the things that he said is that they need more real-time and more, I guess, like quicker rewards, because like right now you have to wait like maybe 4 or 6 months for a PvP season to end, and whenever it ends, finally you get a reward. But in between that period, besides getting the gear and getting the transmog gear and everything, there's not really a lot of rewards that the game gives you. And so if there was more real-time rewards for PvP, I think that would be a good thing, and making the season shorter kind of in a way accomplishes that goal. Hopefully they do more things as well, though. Another thing that they're doing is to kind of combat the faction imbalance, because like you remember, because like the racials were for Alliance were a lot better than Horde, a lot of the top PvPers moved over to Alliance, and so it was very difficult for Horde players to get into Glad range. They're making each faction have its own gladiator ladder, and so that means you have to, instead of it being just like everybody, it's like all of the Alliance gladiators and all of the Horde gladiators, and so that means that it doesn't matter what faction you're playing on, you're basically still, if you're in the top 0.5% of your faction, you're going to be able to get gladiator, not necessarily the top 5% of the region. And so I think this is a good idea. I don't really know how it's going to turn out. I don't know how is it going to really work with people who are like playing like Alliance versus Horde. I don't really know how it's going to work entirely. I'm kind of skeptical about it, but I think the basic idea of it's pretty good. Anyway, I did kind of like really want to do this video with you guys and talk to you about it, because in my opinion, I think that PvP has been, it's like not every season, well, almost. Every expansion, Blizzard really tries to reinvent the wheel with PvP. They try to, change up how you get gear, change up the reward system and everything like that to get more people into PvP. And every single time they do it, it seems like they alienate more and more people from the PvP. And also, they're making I just want to say one thing, they're also adding a new arena. It's like the Temple of the Bird or something like that. I don't really know. But they are adding a new arena. People were worried about that not happening. Apparently it's going to happen. So anyway, this, like, the thing with, like, kind of every expansion, like, in vanilla, you had to go from rank 1 to rank 14 to get gear. In Burning Crusade, all you have to do is do 10 games, and your arena rating gave you a certain amount of arena points, and you were able to buy the points. In my opinion, I thought that made perfect sense. One of the things that I don't like about the PvP catch-up mechanic that they have right now is it takes you so long in order to get geared up if you're starting from a long time in the season. Like going 180 points all the way up to like 2,000 or something, and like let's say you don't win every other game, like it's going to be a really, really big grind, and I think it's just daunting for anybody to really catch up. So I think that like the gearing process should be kind of shortened in a way, but there should be some sort of like ultimate or elite gear that you can get that does give you an advantage in PvP that maybe very good players are able to get, but doesn't necessarily affect high-level rated PvP. I'm not really sure what the solution to that is, but I think that they really should try and make sure that people feel like they're actually gaining a power bonus, because I don't think the invisible, prestige, and vanity bonuses are as rewarding as just straight power increase for most players. So one thing that I do want to say is that Blizzard said that they like the strongbox system. Okay, now from what I've seen, they're the only ones that like the strongbox system. So if you can let me know if you like the strongbox system or not, I'm curious to know if a lot of people would like to see a PvP reward system that's only strongboxes. Personally, I think it would be a disaster, but I'm willing to at least listen to people who have different opinions. I don't know, like, personally, like, I know it, reason I'm making this video really is because it is alpha for Legion right now, and so if there's any point in time where they're going to change anything, it's going to be right now. And I know that they usually listen to feedback. They might not necessarily apply it, but they're probably listening. So I want to at least like put my opinion out there and say that I really like a lot of the changes, but I think that some of the changes are going to end up making PvP less rewarding and make people feel like they're not necessarily moving forward. Warcraft has always been a game that's based on progression, and whenever you remove that progression for the sake of accessibility and convenience, I think that it kind of takes a lot of the investment from players out of the game, and people don't necessarily get as much out of it. If people wanted to play an MMO, or sorry, a MOBA or a shooter, they'd play League of Legends or Counter-Strike. The reason people play World of Warcraft, one of the main reasons I think a lot of people like to do PvP, or at least a lot of people that I know, is to actually get better gear than people and go in there and kick ass. And whenever you kind of remove that sense of, okay, now I'm, an amazing player, now I have the weapon, now I have the shoulders for Season 3 or something like that, I think that it really kind of loses something. And hopefully they're able to still give people that feeling of feeling awesome, but while at the same time giving people the chance to actually get into PvP who are new players and still be able to hold their own. So we'll see what happens, but I'm more cautious about it than I was after reading this stuff, but I'm also pretty excited about it too, and I just really hope that they're able to implement it in the right way. But let me know what you guys think. I'm very curious to hear, especially if you are PvPers. But besides that, thank you for watching, and like, comment, subscribe.